Hello and welcome back to my channel where I just do random stuff, and today you join me on a very rainy October. Yes, it's October, and yes, we are still in the same house, but that's probably a whole other video. So today I thought I'd talk to you about healthy eating and healthy eating versus cost, and healthy eating versus, probably more importantly, fatigue. And my sort of healthy eating journey all came about really because probably 4 years ago, before I started on my anti-TNF injections and my pain was out of control, I was obviously not really in a very good place. I was in a lot of pain, I had a lot of inflammation. I'd only just gone under the care of my rheumatologist, and I was doing probably what a lot of people do, and I was comfort eating. I was eating a lot of processed foods, and consequently, because I wasn't doing any exercise, and we've talked about exercise before, and I don't mean going to a gym or jumping around, I just mean like walking, and I'm still losing my voice. This does not get any better. So consequently, I put on a lot of weight, and really that also had a negative effect because obviously the more weight there is on my joints, the more of a struggle it is, and it was affecting my mental health, and I wasn't happy. So I thought, and you've probably seen from some of my previous videos, that I've actually managed to lose 4 stone. And I've done that through a variety of different, I've done Slimming World, I've done Atkins, I've done low calorie, I've done all sorts. Anyway, that's where we are today. So today I try and eat as healthy a diet as possible. And the more I looked into it, the more I sort of discovered about foods that can cause inflammation, and I've also come across different ways of cooking things, so that if I am having a really bad day and I haven't got a lot of energy, or I just really can't be bothered to cook anything, I've got some sort of backups, and I've got things in my freezer and in my cupboard, so I can throw together something which doesn't involve a lot of energy or a lot of time or a lot of sort of pre-planning. And I thought I'd just share with you sort of what I've learned along the way. So I hope you are still with me, and if you like this sort of content, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll just carry on. Whilst I'm talking about this, you've got to remember that this is what has worked for me. I'm not a doctor. I don't, profess to be any sort of expert in this whatsoever. But this has worked for me, and we are a family of 3, plus the cat. And really, it will be no surprise when I looked at foods that can increase inflammation. It's things like processed meat, processed carbs, sort of they classed as refined carbs or unrefined carbs, but white carbs, so white bread, white pasta, white rice, saturated fat, too much salt, and excessive alcohol. So basically all the things that we associate with mainly an unhealthy diet. So it stood to reason really that things that are unhealthy for us can increase inflammation. So I thought, well, if I can try and not eliminate all those, but at least reduce some of those, then hopefully that will help with my inflammation. And that's not to say that some days I don't eat a whole bar of chocolate and eat a whole pizza, because I think we do have those days. But on the whole, I looked at my diet and I looked at what I was eating and how I was eating it, preparing it, and thought, well, I just sort of really need to eat cleaner, and for me that was thinking about what I was going to eat, and it was also making more of the food myself, because then you know exactly what's going into it. So with that in mind, I was obviously looking to reduce my fat, reduce my refined carbohydrates, and switching those really, so not eliminating all carbs, which obviously I did have to do for my Atkins, but now we're on to healthy eating. So having carbs, but carbs that are better for you, so sort of brown bread, brown rice, brown pasta, reducing my fat, reducing my salt. I don't drink at all any alcohol, so that was quite an easy one to get rid of. And sugar, and I love sweet things, but you know, I think sugar does a lot of stuff, and no surprise that it increases inflammation. So there were just, you know, a couple of things I could do immediately, just to try and eat a little bit healthier. So once I started thinking about how I was going to eat cleaner and really sort of shop smarter, and that sometimes can be really difficult when you've got brain fog and trying to concentrate and remember things. But what I started to think about was obviously eating cleaner, but also I had to think about cost, and I had to think about fatigue. You know, it's very difficult, and I know a lot of you probably can relate to this. You know, I'm not working at the moment, obviously, so we've only now got one income coming in, so cost, you know, plays a very big factor in, you know, what we can buy. And also fatigue. There's no point being able to buy a whole load of stuff if then you just haven't got the energy, or you're just in too much pain, or, you know, you've got a lot of appointments. So it was really weighing up those things, sort of my end goal, which was to eat healthier, but also weighing it up with cost and fatigue. So I started off with my trusty whiteboard, and basically on a week I'll just put down what we're going to eat, and that way I can look in the freezer, I can see what we've got in, what we need to get. So I then do my shopping list from that. So and you will notice on that, if we have spag bol on one day, we'll probably have it on another day and make it look slightly different. And that sort of comes into also, if I, you know, cook once and we get 2 meals out of it, then I'm saving energy. It also means I can buy in slightly bigger bulk, which tends to work out a little bit cheaper. We shop in Aldi, and we tend to only shop once a week. And I know that you can probably say, well, you should be shopping local, or if you shop here, it might work out a bit cheaper. But, you know, I need to think about it. You know, my husband works full time. You know, if he needs to do the shop, which obviously he's had to do for the last 4 months when I was isolating, he only really wants to do one shop and try and get everything in. So we shop at Aldi. I find that's, you know, better in terms of value than the other supermarkets. And I have a big freezer in the garage, so I can stock up on, you know, things like meat and vegetables. So if they are on offer, or, you know, something is reduced, I do love a red label. Totally up to you. If you know, if something is on its sell by date, or, you know, coming up to its sell by date, and you're not happy with freezing it and eating it at a later date, I am, you know, that's my choice. So don't take anything from that whatsoever. So once I've planned my shopping list, then it also helps to organise my brain a little bit better, because I can think, yeah, we're going to eat this and that, and I can look at maybe what I'm doing on that day, and if I haven't got a lot of time, I can see maybe, have I got something that I've already cooked that I've frozen, and we can just defrost that and have that. So it's really about sort of eating smarter and thinking a bit smarter, you know, two of which I find very difficult. But that helps me just to get a little bit more organised. So I thought we'd have a bit of a change of scenery, and we'll go downstairs into the kitchen, and I can share with you some of the things that I buy just to make life a little bit easier. And one thing I find with planning and having my list is I decrease food waste. And obviously, you know, one of the aims of this is obviously to reduce cost. So, you know, if we're throwing stuff out, then, you know, it kind of defeats the object. So we'll go downstairs, and you'll notice we have 2 flights of stairs, and that's one of the reasons why I'm desperate to move house, because I'm really struggling with the stairs. I'm struggling from a short of breath point of view, and I'm struggling from a fatigue point of view. So yeah, we'll go downstairs and into the kitchen. As a change of scenery, we're now in my kitchen. So one thing I learned from my little whiteboard is planning, and obviously I found that because I'm planning more, there's less food waste, and obviously the less food waste we get, that will reduce costs as well. And also, sort of on the back of that, what I was finding especially in Aldi, where you can't just buy like one pepper, you have to buy like 3, and sometimes you might need 1 or 2. So what I found is frozen peppers. Now, they're not that great if you were doing, I don't know, like a tray bake, and you want like big chunks, but for things like chilies and things like that, I can just take out the things I need. I think this is less than £1 for a bag. And it also means that sometimes I get problems in my thumb joints, so I really struggle to sort of hold things and grip. So things like peeling potatoes, chopping, I can find quite difficult, and it also means that I have to stand and do that. I mean, I could have a chair in the kitchen, but it's not that big. So on the back of sort of frozen peppers, I've also got diced onions, which I know you might say, well, it's more expensive to do it that way. It is, but you sort of have to weigh it up. You know, if I buy a bag of 3 onions, am I going to use 3 onions in a week? Or, you know, am I just going to use a little portion? And also, from my point of view, it saves me standing and chopping, and especially if my joints are sore. I'm peeling as well, so we've got frozen mashed potato. Again, you know, buy a bag of potatoes and make your own mash. That's, you know, there is nothing wrong with that. I just found that's really handy as well, and especially when I was doing my Atkins, because I wasn't really having any carbs, so we were only buying sort of potatoes and pasta and stuff for 2, as opposed to the 3 of us. So just being able to portion out some mash was a bit of a godsend, really. One of my favourite ways to cook is using my slow cooker. And I've just found that I can chuck everything in that and, you know, just leave it to do its own thing during the day. It only needs to be stirred a couple of times, and then we've got tea prepared at the end of the day. I do tend to cook bigger portions, and then we can either eat what we didn't eat a bit later on in the week, or I can freeze a portion. And one of my favourite things to do, I did this, which doesn't look that appetising now, but it is spaghetti bolognese. So in here I've got beef, I've got tomatoes, onions, carrots, courgettes, celery, mushrooms, and basically what I do for that is I get my food processor out, and then I use that to chop up my carrots and my celery and courgettes and mushrooms, and I just blitz all that and chuck the meat and all the vegetables. Tin tomatoes, I just buy the really cheap ones because I think, you know, I don't know whether there obviously is a difference between the really cheap ones and the more expensive ones, but I think if you're going to cook it for 6 hours, probably is not going to make that much difference, so I go for the really cheap ones of those. So yeah, so all my vegetables, and it just goes into my slow cooker, which is just here, and it is just really a bog standard plain one. It's sort of got low, high, or auto, which when it starts off high for a bit and then it goes to low. And the other thing that I find that I use an awful lot of is frozen garlic and frozen ginger. You know, if you're doing a curry or like with the spaghetti bolognese, I just use, it comes in little cubes, and you know, instead of buying a whole bulb of garlic and then having to peel it and then crush it, this is just much easier. I think this was less than £1 from Morrison's, and I find that really, really handy. And you know, you can just almost, if you've got mince in your freezer, you've got tin tomatoes, you've got garlic, you've got frozen onion, you can, you know, put something together fairly easily and you've got like a whole meal. Obviously with the spaghetti bolognese you can have like pasta, and as I said before, you know, we're trying to eat more brown pasta, or sometimes if I'm adding in carbs, I will add in tinned potatoes. I can just see people going, oh, you need to eat fresh, you know, and that's great, you know, fresh is great. But if you're trying to limit the amount of times you're going to the supermarket, or if you are having a day where you're just exhausted or you're in a lot of pain, you know, sometimes just having things that are a bit more prepared just makes life a little bit easier. So that's about it for my healthy eating versus cost versus fatigue. I hope you found it interesting. I am going to try and post every week, depending on what my AS is doing, because I was going to do this last week, but unfortunately my pain and my fatigue and everything was just not happening last week. So if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. If there's anything that you think, you'd be interested for me to do, then just pop a little note in the comments section, and I will see you in my next video. Take care of yourself. Bye for now.